Well, after staying put for part of the pandemic, Americans are back to traveling in big numbers this summer. But it's turning out to be much harder than expected, whether you're flying or driving. Despite high gas prices, nearly 48 million drivers hit the highways this weekend. We asked some of you to share what you're experiencing on the road.
My name is Naomi Oguto. I live in New Jersey, but I drive in New York City. I drive for app companies. At the moment, I drive for Lyft. With the gas prices, the person that is suffering is the driver. Before the gas prices went up, I would cruise around Manhattan, from one end of Manhattan to the other. But now, because of the gas prices, now I have to stop at one location, park my car, and wait. Even with all these strategies of saving money, I'm taking home almost half what I used to take before.
I go by Wolf. Um, I'm 59. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm a canine handler for the Mountaineer Area Rescue Group out of Morgantown. There we go. Oh, the big one's Fergus, and the little one, that's Henry. We have to train the dogs a lot. We used to be 2 to 3 times a week, but nobody can afford all those trainings because of the gas prices. There have been times, and there will be again times when certain team members just don't have the money in the bank to fill the tank and cannot come to a call out, which means we can't help. We can't help you. If you're out there and lost, we can't come and fix it for you.
My name's Fred Anson, and I live in Lake Forest, California. If I had to go back to my old commute right now, I would be taking about a $300 to $400 a month cut in pay just in filling up my own car. Here in California, our state government feels that they have evidence that there's been price gouging going on. And just driving to the pump and filling up my car once a week, I don't doubt that there's some legitimacy to that.
My name is Joy Robinson. I am in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we say we're at the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. We actually were out of town when the gas surged in February, and we had driven on vacation, and we were driving back and thinking, how high is it going to be when we get back to town? We went down paying a certain amount and came back, and it seemed like gas had jumped $1.20 over a week.
My name is April Appa, and I live in Corvallis, Oregon. We have 4 children. Everybody's in that driving age. The kids and I had planned on just doing a road trip out to Tennessee. And as we got closer to it and the gas prices kept rising, it just became one of those things where it's like, I don't know that this is going to work.
My name is Michelle Baldwin. I live in Cherokee, Oklahoma, which is a pretty rural area. The closest town to me is 20 miles away. There's just not really any way for us to not drive in order to do the things that we need to do. Overall, I'd say we probably spend close to $60 to $100 a week more on gas now than we did this time last summer. It hurts.
Let's turn now to the troubled state of air travel. Millions of people have been flying in the U.S. this weekend, or at least trying to. There were more than 1,400 cancellations and over 14,000 delays. Stephanie Sy takes a closer look at all of this.
It's hard to remember now, but there were plenty of flight delays and cancellations before the pandemic. Still, things have gotten worse this year for air travelers, particularly around holidays and heavy travel periods. More than 800,000 flights have been delayed in the U.S. this year, averaging 1 of every 5 flights a day. And more than 115,000 flights have been canceled this year. We look at what is happening and what people need to know with Kyle Potter, the editor-in-chief of Thrifty Traveler. Kyle, thanks for joining the NewsHour. I guess the first question is, did airlines do what they needed to do to meet the surge in demand this holiday weekend?
I don't know that it's about what they needed to do. It's about just how far they went to survive the worst of the pandemic. They had to shrink into survival mode when travel fell off a cliff in early 2020. And that was really good for a while because they were hemorrhaging tens of millions of dollars a day. But fast forward to travel demand bouncing back, and it's clear that they cut a little bit too much. So they have stretched themselves far too thin right now. And probably most importantly, they're selling flights as if it's 2019, but they are not up to staff as if it's 2019 yet. It's going to take some time, and that's what we're seeing here is basically growing pains.
Does that mean that they are blameless in this dysfunction that we're seeing around the country?
Not at all. Ultimately it's up to the airlines to sell flights that they can operate reliably and to be able to recover when something like a storm disrupts part of the country or air traffic control issues crop up, as they always do in good times and bad. And that's the difference here, is that airlines are much smaller than they used to be, and they're just trying to do too much with too little. So I would say just the opposite. Airlines are ultimately to blame for what we're seeing today.
Okay, I know that one of the specific issues that airlines are dealing with is just a pilot shortage. We know that at Delta Airlines, there are discontented pilots that protested a few days ago. We know that American Airlines just announced that they're planning a raise for pilots by 2024. But is that specifically the staffing issue we're talking about, that there just aren't enough pilots?
The airlines are getting it from both sides, because even before the pandemic, there was an overarching pilot shortage, that there just weren't enough pilots in the pipeline to get onto planes to fuel their growth plans. And then airlines made it worse for themselves during the pandemic, during the worst of it, because airlines like Delta and every other airline, winnowed their ranks by tens of thousands of employees, pilots included, through early retirement incentives and buyout packages. And so now, hiring pilots takes a lot of time. I mean, this is months and months of training. So it's going to take a long time before these airlines are able to get back up to 100% to have as many pilots as they need.
And when it comes to the pilots who are still flying, a representative with the Allied Pilots Association told another TV network this week that the FAA needs to come in and look at how airlines are building their schedules at an inhumane level, is what the representative said, an inhumane level, and that is letting down passengers. So I guess my question is the federal government doing what it can to hold airlines accountable and make sure passengers and pilots are safe?
There's certainly room for improvement. I mean, someone needs to step in and make sure that airlines are living up to the promises that they're making to consumers. Because when we see airlines fail as often as we have, not just, over this holiday travel weekend, not just in 2022, but again and again and again over the course of the last year and change, it's clear that there are some systemic problems. And until airlines are held accountable for these failures, I'm concerned that this is just going to continue happening.
And continuing on that thread of accountability, Senator Bernie Sanders sent a letter to the Transportation Secretary this week saying that airlines should face steep fines for canceling flights if they have booked passengers on flights they know they can't staff, because a report came out earlier this week saying that is what they're doing. Sanders also reminds us that taxpayers bailed out this industry with more than $50 billion during the pandemic. Would penalizing airlines be part of this solution here?
I'm not going to pretend like I have all the answers. Certainly lawmakers in DC and parts of the Biden administration know best what to do. I do hope that someone somewhere steps up and holds these airlines accountable in some way. We at Thrifty Traveler have been calling for many, many months now to force airlines to guarantee some kind of compensation for delays and cancellations. What the dollar amount is, in what situations that would apply, I don't know what's best in this case, but I do think that airlines need some skin in the game and to face some real penalties and give consumers something back when, their plans get shot.
I guess drive if you can. Kyle Potter, the editor-in-chief of Thrifty Traveler, thank you for joining the NewsHour.
Thanks for having me.